Welcome into the Mental Health Hour. Welcome back.
Indeed.
Welcome to episode 106.
Mm.
Back
I
after
completely funked the intro up. Did you see the date? I
that's
was repurposing one of the previous intros and it said July and I didn't notice.
it
But I'm
is all
getting
good.
old now. What can I say? That's it.
That's what happens when we try and stream while I'm not well, and you have to tell me to stop and take a
Yeah.
minute to just practice what you preach and
Mhm.
practice some self
Indeed.
care. I am pretty stubborn about broadcasting
Yeah, no
on
shit.
our specified date when I am capable of it.
Mhm.
Um, but wow, Michael Joseph Murray, thank you so much for the 510 bits.
Yeah, thank
That is awesome. Thank you so much. But yes, been I've had to take the past 2 weeks off from streaming due to my leg and back, um, dealing with some sciatic nerve pain.
you.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm getting along okay. Everything's fine. I'm healthy. I just sitting at the computer for an extended period of time, like an hour doing the show, has proven difficult. So you may still see me tonight wander off, but Gemma has decided she'll take the lead on this episode. This is uh, her
Mhm.
broadcast tonight. I am supplementing, um, and we're gonna have fun. We're going to get back into it. And it is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month for the month of September. So,
Mhm.
as we normally try and do, round off the month with that particular theme. And Gemma, what better show for you to take the lead on this day?
Yep, you could say we've had personal experience, and Thomas is now happily turned 10 and been in remission for a year. All good. We had a little scare a couple of weeks back, but he's still very much clear, still very much in remission, so we're all good.
Excellent, excellent. Um, so, thank you everybody for the well wishes and
Mm,
the feel betters and all of that. And thanks for checking in on the Discord. I appreciate everybody looking out. And yeah, we're here. Like I said, you might see me wander off, but that just means I need to get up and stretch.
mm,
And Gemma's gonna take us through tonight. I'll be doing some of the supplemental stuff like reading off the slides and yeah. So Gemma, I mean, take it away.
mhm.
What how did you want to start this episode?
Okay, so everybody that's in here, I believe, knows that we've had some very personal experience with childhood cancer, particularly the leukemia. It's also Blood Cancer Awareness Month in September as well. But I thought we'll generalize it all because there is a great deal of cancers that affect, well, everyone but children. Leukemia is one of the most common cancers that affect children. Generally, they seem to get it in their earlier years. And obviously, the sooner it is diagnosed, the greater chance of recovery. As you know, Thomas had it for nearly 4 years, and it was T cell ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The T cell it was a fault with his white blood cell that reproduced, and it was the T cell is the fastest reproducing cell. And when there's a fault with it, it was reproducing this faulty cell, which was collecting in his body and effectively caused a mass in his chest, which would have eventually suffocated him because it was crushing his lungs. Um, a simple blood test would have diagnosed that. or eventually a chest x-ray to see that there was a mass there. I am a very strong believer in the fact that if in doubt, check it out. Not many doctors, especially here, but generally GPs, where they are expected to know a bit of everything, don't always go with the let's rule out the worst case scenario first. They like to think of other things. Like many times I took Thomas and it was, oh, it'll be asthma, it'll be allergies, just trying to go down that route. And yeah,
Looking
most of the time it
looking
will.
at other possible avenues. Were they trying to steer away from a cancer diagnosis, or like avoid it, or were they just trying to rule out before jumping straight to the big?
Oh, they'd not even considered it was an option. That's the thing. And because he'd had sepsis when he was 2, because of a chest infection that was late to be diagnosed, and then they treat it with 5 days worth of antibiotics and said it'll be fine now, and it wasn't. That's where I was going. I was like, well, can you check? Because he's struggling to breathe. So that in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's another chest infection. He was complaining about a lot of pain and things, and he was getting bruised. But then when I took him and he was bruised, they were straight at me, accusing me of beating him up, basically. Um, I am a very firm believer, and I am trying to, with the support of some of the cancer charities, make more awareness around it. Because what would have a blood test done? Like, they could have just checked with the blood test. A blood test can tell you
Right.
so much,
Yeah.
and it would have ruled out all of that, or it could have given us an earlier diagnosis. They think Thomas had cancer 4 months prior to diagnosis, and at the point of diagnosis, they estimated without treatment he had a week left to live. So he was immediately put onto some really high dose steroids to shrink that mass, which couldn't. I think it was something like 89% of his entire chest cavity was full of cancer cells, which is why when he was laid down, the weight of the mass was pressing on his heart and lungs,
Right.
and he would have suffocated. It would have absolutely cut his oxygen off.
Yeah.
And the steroids, because they were so high dose, he put on so much weight so quickly. And that's another thing that I'm trying to do with they've one of the cancer charities have given us a special named fund, Thomas Fight Hall, and we're raising money to try and find better cures rather than the more aggressive ones. Because basically, Thomas was given the same treatment as a fully grown man. Now, males with cancer generally get an extra 6 months due to the fact they have additional body areas that they need to get to. Women is usually 6 months less, girls and women 6 months less, men 6 months longer because they need it. And it was so aggressive, and it completely, for months and months, stole not just his childhood, but any form of quality of life. He was bedridden, and it is a very aggressive thing, and a lot of people don't think about the wider effect that that's having on the parents, the family, friends, and things. And I openly admit when he was diagnosed with that, my mental health just absolutely plummeted to the point where there was times where I didn't think that I would get through it.
Absolutely.
And all I could think of was if he doesn't make it, I'm done. I'm gone. And I would have. I absolutely would have at that time. And it does have a massive, massive impact, not just on the one that's having the treatment, but all of those around. because I mean, I obviously being his mum and he was only 5 at the time, I had to stay with him in the hospital. I didn't have another parent to circulate with, so I was in the hospital for that whole time. We lived in the hospital for 2 months straight, and I mean, things have changed now because of COVID. I don't know if they still do, but before they didn't used to provide any food or anything for the parent that was staying with them. So for 2 months straight, I was living on whatever the hell I could get hold of, from the little shop, and it is so expensive in the hospital. So it was like,
Absolutely.
sometimes if he wasn't eating it, I'd just nick a bit off his plate, and it was hospital food, and it's like, "I'm not
Yeah.
surprised he ain't eating this." But it not only can it mentally drain you because you are having this whole new, "This is what he's got, this is what we're gonna do," and it happens so quickly from the point of admission to what they're gonna do, 'cause it has to do. You don't really get chance to just sit and think, "Okay, what they're gonna do." Then they were talking about central lines. Was it gonna be a Hickman line? Was it gonna be a Portacath? Which we went for because the Hickman line is 2 tubes hanging out of his chest permanently, and it would have you don't really get chance to sit and digest it. You're having, like, it feels like an entire medical degree thrust on you overnight, and you're just expected to know everything about it. "Sign this paperwork. We're gonna do this, sign that," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I don't have time to read it, there's loads of stuff." And then they go over you everything, and it's like your head's just mashed. You hear the C word and you're like, "Bleh."
Yeah, you're already at a disadvantage,
Yeah, yeah.
because you've just received, the gut shot of the century, right? Like, your brain is not in any kinda headspace to
Oh, yeah.
digest or absorb anything else other than that news you just heard about your
Yeah,
child. But then
and
on top of that comes what I imagine is just a rain down of information, as any diagnosis brings.
mhm,
Not comparing the two, but I do remember laying in the hospital bed when I got my diagnosis with pancreatitis, and you can't drink anymore and all this stuff, and it's just showering with information about everything and what's going on, and you're
mhm.
still trying to process that one little nugget. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
It's like we've spoke about before, the 5 stages of grieving, and you have gotta process that, and it again, with anything, no step comes first. Everybody's different. And I was in denial for so long. The fact that the doctor told me he had cancer and my initial knee-jerk reaction was, "No, you're wrong. He hasn't got cancer. You don't know what you're talking about." And I got quite cross with him. I'm like, "No, you've got it wrong. He's not got cancer. You need to do whatever the hell tests you need to do again because that's not what he's got. He's 5. He can't have cancer."
Right, denial, anger bargaining.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then it went from like, did I do this? Have I given him that? Have I given him something that's caused this? Is it hereditary? Have I passed this on to him? Is it something he's got from, and I started looking it up. That was the worst thing I could do was Google it. Don't ever do that.
Oh, yeah, Doctor
Oh,
Google.
no, no, no. Oh god. Um, that was the worst thing I ever did. And yeah, I
I've
blamed
always
myself.
wondered, how doctors, feel when, because more and more folks, I mean, it's not a new thing, but,
Mm,
more and more folks come in already with their diagnosis, because I was on Google, and this is what I have, and they're probably just looking at them.
I've seen my actual GP do that though, they're looking shit up. Like, when I've told them a couple of my conditions, they're Googling it like, "Yeah, you don't know what the hell that is, do you?" Doctor Google, I actually call one of the doctors that, but I won't say where or who because I don't
Doctor
want
Google.
suing.
Doctor Google goes in the same category as we can place it in the same category as the, show we just did on social media
Oh
and
god,
the
yeah.
effects it has on mental health. I mean, getting on and typing in a couple of minor symptoms, uh,
Oh god,
will
yeah.
produce the worst possible results,
Yeah.
that you could imagine. You have weeks to live because your
Yeah.
left toe hurts and you
Yeah,
know
you stubbed your toe, and next thing you know, you've got a week to live. Oh, shit. Yeah,
uh,
for real.
but it, it it for folks that have um, hypochondriac type symptoms, is that
Mhm,
the right? I'm trying to remember. Uh, but yeah, they're constantly in and out of doctors' offices, and not that they're dreaming these things up. I mean, obviously,
mhm,
they actually feel uh, that they have these conditions and what have you, and there's something
mhm.
more going on there. But uh, sorry, slightly off topic there. It just the Doctor Google thing
Oh god,
reminded me
yeah.
of that episode we just did and how poorly that can affect your mental health as well. But let's get back on track and you continue going with
Yeah,
Thomas.
yeah. And I think for the first few weeks while he was on the steroids, I was just in complete denial the whole time. And when it really hit me was when they'd finally shrunk the mass down enough to be able to put him to sleep to do the bone marrow test. Now, they told me we're having to treat this thing blind. So when we do the bone marrow test, it's going to give us a false positive in the way they test to see what cancer it is and what are the chances of a relapse. Is it chance or low chance? And it will come back with a low chance of a relapse because they've already started treating it. So they said, we can't give you a definitive on that. So you're just going to have to go with it. I didn't have much choice. It was like all I heard was cancer, less than a week to live. Obviously, I'm just going to say do what you need to do to save my son. Like I didn't understand any of it. But
Yes.
when it really hit home to me, they'd wheeled him down into theater and they have the anaesthetist part where they give you the anesthetic to knock you out and then they wheel you into theater.
Hmm.
And I held him, I cradled him in my arms while they were putting him to sleep, and they had him with a line in his he had about 4 cannulas in at one point, and then he had the mask over him, and I knew he wasn't well because he would normally have fought that place. You would have screamed the place down, but no, he just laid there, and when you hear someone say about a dead weight, that that whole, like when he went, like, under,
Limp.
he
Yeah.
became heavy and limp, and that it's at that moment I realized the seriousness of the situation and just how bad things were, and they scooped him out my arms, started putting things on him, monitors and things,
Hmm.
and took him in immediately. I was ushered out of the room, and I'm not kidding, I just came out and I fell to the ground. um, some profanities came out of my mouth and I just started crying. And it was at that moment I felt like I'd been kicked in the chest.
Hmm.
It's like, why? And I remember saying, and I apologize for anybody that's religious at the time. And like at the time, this is how I felt. And I just thought, and I said, if there really is a God, what kind of a God would make a poor, innocent, defenseless kid sick like this? And I did question it. I questioned everything. I questioned myself. I was trying to find someone to blame.
You just
That was all.
pinpointed precisely, probably precisely where you went from denial to anger
Yes.
right there in the
Immediately, just then, like, boom, boom, boom. I had to because they kept telling me it's nothing that I had done. There's no way that anything that I have done has caused this cancer. It just happens. And then I'm like, well, okay, it's come from somewhere, and that's where I went to. And I remember going and sitting in the chapel in the church, in the hospital, and I don't know what religion they were that came out and spoke to me. And I did, I said to them, I says, "There can't be a God because why would he give my kid this? He's not done anything wrong. Why are there people sat in prisons that get nothing wrong with them, yet my 5-year-old child is fighting for his life? Where's the logic? Where's the
These
fairness of
are
that?"
very fair questions too.
Yeah. And it
Things
does, it
to think
question you
about.
question every ounce of your being as to why. Why has this happened to us? Is it karma to me? Am I being punished? Have I done something wrong? And they think the way that I can be punished is through my son.
Yeah,
Because there was times when I said that the only reason I'm alive is because of my son. It's everything.
it's definitely one of the normal thought processes, I guess, to
Mhm.
try and project it onto folks. I don't want to say
Yeah.
more deserving folks, but like you were just saying, how come
Mhm.
there's people that have murdered folks and they're just sitting in prison until they die? Why
Yeah.
can't they be afflicted with this? Now, this is also kind of transitioning into bargaining. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was, like, thinking, they're in prison, absolutely free healthcare, 3 meals a day, TV,
mhm.
no bills, no nothing, and I'm struggling to make ends meet, and now I've got this. What the hell? Where's the f what is fair about that?
Another popular side of bargaining, or you see when people start the bargaining uh, phase of the grieving process, is give it to me instead
Oh,
of
I did all that, yes. I
yeah,
said, "Why not me? Why
put
give
it
it me,
on me.
give it me."
I, make
Mhm,
him okay. I'll take it.
mhm.
Um, and I'm sure, yeah, that you felt those
Oh
same
god.
emotions.
Mhm. Very much so.
So, how's Thomas at this point? We've talked about this, and if you're just joining us or just tuning in, um, welcome into the Mental Health Hour. We are talking about childhood cancer, and it is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. My co host, Gemma, is very well spun up, shall we say, on the process, as are some of the folks in chat, Jim in Chicagoland, as well as his daughter, that he's very, um, outspoken about and active in the community,
Mhm,
making things happen in law in Chicago and the state of Illinois. So uh, he can chime in on any of this as well as he has been. But going back to the story or your
mhm.
experiences, where's Thomas's headspace as a 5-year-old? Does he have? It's been a long time since I was 5. So
Yeah.
you can't remember exactly, but what was his? Was he comprehending any of what was going on? How did you
Um,
feel he was handling at 5? I mean, he's 10 now, right? So
yeah,
he's
yeah.
he's probably got a better grasp on what happened, what is going on, or what had happened um, at the
He had
time.
to grow up real quick, so he seemed to know a lot at a very early age. Initially, all we told him was that he's got poorly blood and that the doctors were gonna make him better and that he had to have quite a few medicines. That we had to explain that these medicines would make him maybe feel a bit poorly. The medicines might make his hair come out. And it's when he asked me, um, he was still 5 when he asked me, he'd been in hospital for maybe about 5 weeks, and he says, "Have I got cancer? Am I gonna die?" And it was like a kick in the guts, like, "Oh my god, he knows what he's got." He hadn't heard me mention the C word because I wouldn't say it in front of him. I tried to hide it, but I think one thing that kids do is they pick up on things more than we will ever give them credit for, and they're not daft, and I mean, in hindsight, I kinda wish I had've explained things to him a little bit more early on rather than him worrying about it, because he clearly was. But then when he did ask that, we sat down. I also got some outside help from the charities that were involved at the time. the Macmillan nurses and things, and they helped to explain it in a way that he could understand. And he had the chemo duck that explained he were given a duck with a the port thing that he would be having to explain that. And there's stories and things where you can read it to them and it tells them in a I say a fun way. It's not really a fun way, but it kind of helps to explain it. And they give all those, and then they have the beads of courage and things, which I've shown many, many times. I know first time we did a show together was an episode on this, and that was episode 5, and then
That's
we've
correct. Yes.
done some since. Um, because yeah, and we've done one with Jim also.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely worth a watch if you haven't watched it.
We did the episode childhood cancer 3 years on. This
Yeah.
was um, this was 3 years after the diagnosis.
Yeah, yeah, and then I did actually do a broadcast, and we showed it on the show, I think, where he rang the bell last year.
Hmm.
That would have been Childhood Cancer Awareness Month last year. But yeah, the only thing is now the problem I find is when you ring that bell, everybody thinks that's it, it's over. But I have found it harder now that it's over, because I feel like I'm constantly looking for those things. I'm constantly looking for, is it back? He's got a bruise. Where did that come from? Has he got it back? And yeah, we had a scare a couple of weeks ago, and he had some blood tests and he's fine, thankfully. But there was some other signs and it was stacking up, like there was bruising. He's been complaining about chest pains and breathing problems. And then there was sleeping problems again, not eating. He's lost a bit of weight, and I'm like, this is all how it started. So
Hmm.
I was really worried about that, and I have actually got a slide that says about
Yeah,
some.
absolutely.
I'm just gonna see which one it is, and then if I bring it up on my phone first so I can see it properly. Okay, so this is one that allows you to think about it in a way to remember, like the caution up down the side.
Hmm.
So if you, and I'm not saying that any of these symptoms are cancer, that we've talked about it many times before, where there's things that can overlap and it can be something else. But it, as I've said before, if in doubt, check it out. Check it
Sure.
out. Get a blood test. A blood test can tell you so many things. Um, so changes in bowel or bladder habits. Thomas wasn't weeing as much. A sore that doesn't heal. So Thomas was complaining about knee pain and about back pain, constantly complaining about it. Unusual bleeding or discharge. Now, we didn't have any of that. Well, yeah, not really. Thickening or a lump in a breast or elsewhere. So this is covering cancer in general, not just leukemia. Indigestion or difficulty swallowing. Obvious changes in warts or moles. Nagging cough or persistent hoarseness. So Thomas had a cough that was constantly just, it would not go away. And we know now that that was because of the mass on his chest.
Right.
Unexplained weight loss. He did lose a lot of weight. He was very pale. And then persistent anemia, which he was. And when he was always tired, but not when he was sleeping, it wasn't restful. Um,
These are and it's good that you mentioned in the beginning, obviously not everything is a sign of cancer, but
mhm,
like you and Jim are both advocating for, oh, when in doubt, check it out, right?
yeah.
There's
There's
no harm.
no harm in, if you are worried, going to the doctor and saying, "Look, I'm a bit worried about this, this, and this. Can you just do a blood test, or can
I
you
mean,
just do whatever?"
yeah, for example, how many different conditions outside of cancer
Mhm.
can weight loss show up as a symptom for? You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
god, yeah. Even stress. Stress can cause weight loss.
Absolutely. So this is again just guidelines and something to look at. Um,
And that's
but
the thing, if you're worrying about having, say, maybe one of those other things, and then you're stressing, the stress will cause some of those other symptoms.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, you're not helping yourself, and it's not
Our
easy to
brains
just
are
not
our
stress
worst
out.
enemies. Our
Yeah,
brains are our worst enemies when it comes to, diagnosing what's going on,
and then
because the anxiety takes over, and
mhm.
after that, it's a slippery slope all downhill from there.
Oh god, yeah.
And
The
when the
worst
brain
thing you
starts
can do.
believing something, it
Yeah.
becomes reality,
Oh, yeah,
one
yeah.
way or the other.
It's not easy, definitely not easy. The worst thing you can do is worry about it and look things up on the internet. If in doubt, check it out. Go to your doctors, get that blood test. Right, so we have this one as well. It just says it a bit more. This one was specifically for children, so unable to wee or has blood in their wee. Thomas was weeing a lot less. An unexplained lump, firmness or swelling anywhere in the body, persistent abdominal pain or swelling, back pain or bony pain that doesn't go away, unexplained seizures or changes in their behavior. Now, he didn't have the seizures so much with this one, but he did when his temperature spiked. So, a raise in temperature can cause a seizure. And it's not always cancer. He had a seizure when he had chest infection, which caused his temperature to spike, and he had sepsis.
Right.
So, obviously, if you have a seizure, you need to get that checked out. Headaches that don't go away, frequent or unexplained bruising, unusual paleness or a rash, small red spots, purple spots that can't be explained. Now, that is the thing that made me take Thomas to the hospital. He had
Oh,
a rash. I put the glass over it because we're always taught about meningitis and
yes.
how a non-blanching rash could be meningitis. So
Sure.
that's what I thought he had. I'm like, oh my God, he's got meningitis. There's a rash. He didn't go away. Um, and that's what I rang up. I rang up for an ambulance and said, "He's very, very weak. He's pale. He's got a rash. I think it's meningitis." And it wasn't. Unexplained bleeding. Now, Thomas did get some, quite a lot of nosebleeds when his blood count was low and things, but not initially. Feeling tired all the time, that is a big one that I've seen in most people. But again, doesn't mean you have. Frequent infections or flu-like symptoms. That is another sign that I had with Thomas. He was always getting chest infections, always getting something wrong with him. Unexplained vomiting, unexplained fever, high temperatures or sweating, unexplained weight loss, feeling short of breath, and then changes in appearance of the eye or unusual eye reflections in photos. So the whites of his eye went yellow, which
Right.
is or can be a sign of jaundice.
Jaundice.
Again, that needed checking out. Um, but it can be to do with your blood count and things as well, and that did correct itself. Now, just some statistics and things for you. I've got some from the UK and some from the US.
All right.
So here we go. So every day in the UK, 10 children or young people are diagnosed with cancer. So that's 10 a day.
Wow.
There are around 3,755 young people diagnosed with cancer each year in the UK. That is 1,645 children aged 0 to 14 and 2,110 teenagers and young adults aged 15 to 24. So this is children 0 to 14. Most common types of cancer are leukemia, brain and spinal cord, lymphomas,
Yeah.
and then more than two-thirds, of which is account for those of all cancers diagnosed in children, and leukemia is the most commonly diagnosed in children. And then teenagers and young adults, so 15 to 24. The most common cancers in the teenagers and young adults would be lymphoma, germ cell tumor, and skin cancers. Lymphomas are the most common cancer in young people between 15 to 24. And survival rates, so more than 8 out of 10 young people diagnosed with cancer survive at least 5 years, and many of them are cured. So that's a damn sight better than it used to be.
Absolutely. That's incredible. 86%.
Yes, and it's come a long way. It really has. But I believe that until every single one of them are cured, then there's not enough done. They
Right.
needs to be every one of them cured, or just stop it completely. And then around 1 in 420 boys under the age of 15 are more likely to develop cancer compared to 490 girls. For young people aged 15 to 24, it was 1 in every 360 males and 1 in every 380 females. And then cancer in children, teenagers, and young adults account for 0.3% of all cancer deaths in the UK. In 2018, there were around 260 childhood cancer deaths, accounting for 7% of all childhood deaths. 0 to 14-year-olds, and for teenagers and young adults 15 to 24, there were nearly 290 cancer deaths, accounting for 11% of all teenage and young adult deaths. That's still way too many. And then we have the next one is, where are we? This one? Yeah, here we go. So this is pediatric cancer fact. So cancer is the number one cause of disease related death in children in the United States under the age of 19. And then 1 in 285 US children will be diagnosed with cancer by the time they are 20.
Wow.
And that is vastly different than adult cancers. And then more than 12 types of pediatric cancer and so there's more than, should I say, more than 12 types of pediatric cancer and over 100 subtypes. So like leukemia, for example, is the cancer. And then
Mhm.
there's T cell, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, B cell, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and then there's acute myeloid leukemia. The acute ones mean that they are faster in producing the faulty cell,
Right.
whereas I think some people get the idea that acute means not much, but it really isn't. So as of 2020, only 6 new drugs have been developed for pediatric cancer, and that is in quite a few years. Um, yeah, there's still a long way to go, basically.
Absolutely.
Most
There's
standard.
going to be.
I hope so. I hope we see the day where they can cure everyone that gets it or completely just stop it. There must be something.
There's going to be a long road, is what
Hmm.
I was getting at. Uh, Certain advancements are definitely being made, and
Yeah.
you can tell that from the previous slide with the 86%
Oh, the survival
survival
rates
rate,
are definitely better now than they were.
or at least 5 years or better. And then a lot of it, or it said most, or I can't remember the exact verbiage now, but there was something in there with cured or in
I
remission.
found something that I'll read out in a minute about the survival rates now compared to a few years ago, and it was absolutely mind blowing. I couldn't get it on a slide, but I'll finish with this one, then I'll pull that one up. So most standard childhood cancer treatments are decades old, and like I said, they generally treat children, even babies, the exact same as they would a fully grown adult. So the damage to their body can be significant, like it has with Thomas. He will have a lot of problems that will probably last him forever. But all I think is he's alive.
Yeah.
We can deal with the rest. Anything
Yeah.
else is where there's life, there's hope.
Right on.
So more kids are beating their disease than ever, but 1 in 6 kids with cancer do not survive. 95% of survivors have significant health issues by the age of 45 because of cancer toxicity or treatments. And then underinvestment slows research momentum. Only 4% of the federal government's cancer research budget goes to pediatric cancer research. And then about 50% of all pediatric cancer research is funded by philanthropies supported by private donors, corporations, and foundations.
So that's interesting, um, because there is a lot of um, awesome groups and folks out there that have put together funding for this specifically, which is it says a whole lot about um, people and their interest in finding that cure, uh,
Hmm.
and how we. I mean, ultimately, our goal. I think that the holy grail of medicine is going to be finding that cure for cancer. Um,
Yeah,
but
and that
uh,
brings me to those statistics I've just found. Sorry. It says now, so now in 2023, 84% of children with cancer will be cured, compared to that of the 1960s, where less than 20% of all cancers were cured.
the
So,
60s,
yeah,
so
so
less
that's
than
it.
20 in the 60s,
Less than 20% of anybody with cancer would survive.
and then today is what was
84%.
wow,
That is massive.
that's
Still a long way to go,
huge.
but it is huge. It would have been a death sentence effectively, and that's what I was worried about. And I think the one with the most progress is leukemia, when I was looking at it when Thomas had it. And I know it's probably it's a weird way to say, but when he was diagnosed, I remember the nurse saying to me, if he was going to have cancer, he had the best one. As weird
Sure.
as that is, because it is the one with the most advanced in
Well,
treatment.
and that makes sense because your previous slide said it was the most common.
Yeah.
So we're getting a lot more information
Mhm.
because unfortunately, on the flip side of that, a lot of kids are being diagnosed with it. So, but with that comes research and um, uh, knowledge of what we're dealing with for future cases.
Mhm.
Kind of like the uh, COVID pandemic. We had no idea what we were dealing with.
Oh, no.
Coronavirus itself has been around for ages, but this particular strand or strain, we had no clue what was going on. The more and more folks that came down with it, the more we learned about it. And now, while COVID 19 is still around today and coronavirus separately, um, we are living mask free again. We are living more normal lives because we have learned from the folks that have come down with it and we have been able to figure out ways to treat. It's an
Mhm.
unfortunate practice in medicine that folks have to get sick to learn, but that is how we learn and how we evolve, essentially.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find something about the because as you know, I have set up a fund in Thomas's name because we did a lot of research, a lot of fundraising for research into further treatment for leukemia in children. And it was announced with the charity.
Is it that I put up a while ago?
No, I didn't actually send it
Oh,
over. I was just gonna read it. It's not really a slide, but I can put a link to the website in the Discord. I
sure.
was hoping I could find it, but it says that a new, a potentially new treatment for leukemia is being looked into, and it is being funded by a few of the special named funds. Thomas is being one of them. They have made good headway with it, and all being well, it will be something that really helps.
Awesome.
There is a
Yeah,
was
so,
a link to it somewhere.
well, if you find it after, you don't have to worry.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll
I
be
will
in
post it to be
Discord.
read in the Discord, but it does say that Thomas's fund was one of them. Now we've raised over £6,000 so far, and we're still going with it. I at the moment selling all the little pin badges and things
Sure.
to help with them. I normally have one on. I actually haven't. Can't be bad, but
You have worn it on. I've seen
yeah, yeah, yeah.
on the
There's
show before.
there's loads of them. There's loads of different ones.
But if you are
Uh,
interested, is this is the correct? I
yeah,
searched.
that's
This is what
yeah.
came up that I had bookmarked on my computer. Now I just went through a humongous update today. Apple went to Sonoma or whatever, and all my stuff is jacked up now. But I'm getting it back sorted. All my bookmarks seem to be good. This is
There's
what I
that one
had.
as well. That's where you can find everything in that bio link. That one the one that Tim posted directs you to the charity page directly, and then this bio link will let you go to the fundraising page and some of the other socials and things that we've got. I think the link for the abseil that we did still on there. There's still the video on my YouTube.
And
From
the funds being raised there. I want to go back to this real quick.
Mhm,
Funds being raised on the special name funds is going directly towards
mhm.
helping the research
Yeah,
progress in a positive direction,
yeah,
as it
definitely.
seems to be for leukemia, like we were talking about,
Mhm.
um, because it is one of the more common ones. So they're making some good headway, and Thomas's charity is one of the leading uh,
Yeah,
funds
yeah, it's
for them
one of
trying to,
them that's funding it directly, yeah. We're
or
funding it
direct. I'm sorry,
directly.
directly funding the
Mhm.
cause.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a few, maybe 4 or 5
And
different funds that are doing it, because
sure.
obviously it's gonna cost hundreds of thousands,
And
but
we'll for those listening on the podcast, it'll be in the uh, description of the episode. We'll put all of these links
yeah,
for your uh, viewing pleasure. Uh, and I think that was everything as far as I could remember. Uh,
yeah,
you've got the bio link and the special name funds. I thought there was
yeah.
something else, but I couldn't quite come up with it while we were talking.
I can put the bio link for the fund in the mental health hour one. If I haven't already, I will,
Sure.
just so it's there. But um, yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about because in a way, I feel like I'm giving something back as well because my
That's
son was one of the lucky ones. We did come across many people, unfortunately, that weren't so lucky,
yeah.
and there will be many that aren't. And for as long as I've got breath in my body, I intend to keep doing more to try and make sure that even more make it and that number keeps going up when it comes to those that make a full recovery. Now,
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it where they can make a full recovery with less damaging effects to their body, because I was always told that Thomas will likely be sterile. He'll never be able to conceive his own children.
Okay.
Again, he's alive. We can deal with that.
Right.
He has problems with his legs. He does have a disability badge now. Um, a few problems. He's going to have. He's been having some intensive hydrotherapy, physiotherapy, and he's just been seen by the pain clinic, who are going to check there's no nerve damage, and they think that these this part of the spine where they kept doing the lumbar punctures, they
Uh,
think there's no bone marrow or something in between, and it's made the two bones touch and probably rubbing against each other, which is very painful. Yes. So they're working on that. Um, but you think about it, like I said, a child having the same treatment as that of a fully grown adult,
yeah,
obviously their little bodies are going to take it a lot harder.
absolutely.
Um, Again, I said he's
100%.
alive. We can deal with it, but obviously it would be better in future if there was a treatment that was kinder and less damaging. But as I say, we've come a long way from less
Mhm.
than 20% to 84 plus percent. So
Yeah, for
things
sure,
are going in the right direction.
for sure. And Gemma, thank you for sharing as always.
No, thank you for
Shared it.
letting me do this.
You've shared this story a number of times now on the show. It's
Mhm,
good to keep revisiting. It's good to keep checking in. Um, we're adding new um, viewers and listeners every day. Well, every week. The numbers show it. So we're getting new folks coming in. And as I say that, first time chatter. Hello to you, soul fired. But this is good. One of those things that's good to continue to check in on. We get a check in with Thomas. We get a check in with you, and um, we get the updated story, and those new folks get to hear the story for the first time. So
mhm,
we cover some of the topics uh, many times on this show. You'll see the second part, third part, fourth part episodes. Not
mhm.
just because there's a lot to talk about on a specific topic, but because there is quite a need for continuous education on it,
Mhm.
and that's the good thing about hitting all of those several times, which is why we'll always have something to talk
Yeah.
about on this show.
I've said if one person hears it and thinks, "Okay, some of that sounds familiar, I'm gonna go get checked," and they get caught early, and it causes the treatment to start earlier, then that's great. Because
Yeah,
I still think while there's ever any doubt in anyone's mind, we still need to keep the conversation going because earlier diagnosis can save lives.
absolutely. And as Jim and Gemma both advocated earlier, when in doubt, check it out, get the blood test done. What harm is it going to cause? Uh,
Mhm.
so early detection is key, as he finishes off with there. Thank you guys for joining us again this week, and thank you for all the bits, subs, hype trains, follows. Thank you, Soulfire, for following and sharing us out. It was a um, good week. We'll be back again next week at 6. So, my leg did pretty well tonight, so I think
Yeah,
we'll
you
be
did.
we'll be back. I got up most of the time for Penelope. Um, Anywho, we're going to go ahead and pop off now. And like I said, we'll be back again next week. But first, we're not gonna forget community calendar. Uh,
Yes.
Tonight on Twitch, I believe we'll check with him. He's in the crowd tonight. Uh, Jim in Chicagoland, give him a follow. He also has a lot to discuss when it comes to childhood cancer and things along those lines as well, as his daughter is a survivor as well. Catalyst tonight live with Jim in Chicagoland, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget our good buddy at A Ray of Sunshine. He is now on YouTube. So check him out. He's posting new videos all the time. So give him a follow and a share on YouTube. The Gemma is my co-host who thankfully shared her story tonight. There's more from her. She goes live on her Twitch channel at Gemma. And then also check out her, or I'm sorry, X Gemmy H83X. Just click her name there. She's on here and give her a follow. Also, her YouTube channel's there. The Beardo and Weirdo Show is back after a long hiatus. We're very excited about that. I've made one or two of them, but I need to get back into the swing of things if they're streaming more regularly again now. Our good buddies Blaine _Beardo and Piano Man 25 here on Twitch. Give them a follow. They put on a great cooking broadcast, and Piano Man does some crosswords live. We're glad to have them back. And as always, we end with all things bunny. Please check out our great sponsor, longtime friend of the show, at Ella the Bunny Mom. She is live here on Twitch most times in the middle of the night. And you can check out her e-store at www.mybunnyvalentine.com. Use the promo code FireDude15 to save 15% on your purchases and help her save all the rabbits across the world. And as Hattie is saying, BWN is now on. Beer and Weiro are on Thursdays. So we'll get that changed because I think I have Tuesday and Friday I do. So we'll get that changed to make that correct. And hopefully it won't take me 3 weeks to do that.
I was just going to say.
All right, guys, I do have to pop off of here because I have to get some kids fed. We have the step kids here tonight as well, which is who I dumped Penelope off on.
I was going to say she's being quiet.
My oldest stepdaughter is watching her right now as she was trying to do her homework. I kind of dumped her into the room, so I'm going to go save her and get that under control so she can get back to her schoolwork. All righty. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
And goodbye.
Bye.